They could walk and make millions of dollars, become well known through Full Home and a flourishing media conglomerate. However, the fame was the result of a lifetime of anguish, pressure, and perfectionism. From battling eating disorders and intrusive media attention to managing a fractured home and a lot of public. Nevertheless, the tale of the Olsen twins is one of lost childhood and constructed adulthood in order to survive. Now almost totally withdrawn from the spotlight, their silence speaks louder than words. Early life and a career in acting. Many children have dreams regarding acting or being well known. However, Ashley Olsen and Mary-Kate didn't even have time to develop a fantasy prior to it truly took place. They were only 6 months old at the time of their casting in the Full House pilot, and after 9 months, they were already at work, switching between and out of situations in order to accommodate the toddler labor laws prior to their utterance. Sherman is where the Olsen twins were born. David Olsen in Oaks, Los Angeles, and Jarnett. Ashley showed up 2 minutes early. Mary-Kate, her sister, making her the elder of the two. Their expedition into, almost by mistake, show industry got its start. They had been brought to an open where the show's creator, the casting call Jeff Franklin, was amazed at how composed and cozy the infants were in their presence. Strangers. Their laid-back charm won them the Michelle Tanner's joint position, one that would characterize their early years and propel them to international fame. From the start, the Olsens were not only the actors, they were a feeling. Michelle Tanner in a flash became Full House's breakthrough star, and their on-screen appearance turned into a motivation behind the program's popularity. But according to the Lifetime's 2015 film, The Unauthorized Full House Story, that fame might have sparked some interest in the backstage friction between the creators of the show and cast became accustomed to the fact that its biggest stars were its youngest. Draw. In accordance with California child labor regulations that restrict a child's actors are able to work, yet they are unable to do so, each episode lasting more than 20 minutes. Thus, the sisters took turns acting out the part. It was a protection provided by law, but not one that may actually shield them from the demands of a professional life performers before they had even acquired the ability to read. What ought to have been the period of discovery and purity was instead of being strictly scheduled, heavily controlled, and continuously observed. By the media was already in the early 1990s, focusing its attention on them in a manner that predicted the years of close examination to come on. In a Washington Post article from 1991, the twins were said to be enamored. However, the same article also disregarded them as lacking acting ability, a slight insult that disregarded their age and humanity. After several years, Mary-Kate would consider her early years with a feeling of not nostalgia, but caution. In interviews, she was explicit about the fact that she would never desire to cast her own children at such a young age in a program. Despite all of the prosperity it provided, she observed the price, and it's instructive that she refused to wish it onto anyone, but not her in particular. Own children. The seeds of catastrophe were planted early. What started out as acute, the casting, choice gradually changed into an identity problem in full. 2 kids shaped by a system that placed a high importance on performance as opposed to personhood. They weren't merely acting, they were live one. During her early years, Mary-Kate and Ashley were anticipated to be entertainers initially and people second. The sad thing is that nobody appeared to halt around them and find out how much that might cost. Parents, separation. Nearly 9 years later, the show concluded. When that happened, the twins' lives underwent their first significant turn. They weren't just changing from a popular television show, but they're Jarnett and Dave Olsen, parents, who had additionally been overseeing their expanding corporate empire, declared their separation early in 1996. The timing felt unsettling, as the females were moving away from their responsibilities in childhood, and their actual home life was slowly coming apart. A few tabloids attributed the breakup on the tension of the twins' multi-million-dollar management brand. However, the truth was less dramatic and more terribly and personally typical. Dave had begun to glimpse a Mackenzie, a woman who had collaborated with him prior to his departure from the mortgage sector. He wed her within a month, following the divorce's public disclosure. The velocity made news because of the remarriage, but the emotional fallout was more subtly revealing. According to reports, Ashley did not attend the wedding in order to be with their mother, but Mary-Kate went to the function. That, in this instance, two sisters divided between two parents represented the expanding split in their hitherto closely controlled the world. Dave maintained that everything went smoothly and the girls' well-being, while Janet remained silent. However, that the twins were still there and fissures were visible. Only children were forced to manage both a broken family and an unrelenting profession. Despite the confusion that surrounds them, Mary-Kate subsequently told Entertainment every week they made an effort to maintain typical kid activities. They proceeded to school, engaged in play with their pals, and had sleepovers just like other kids. And to the credit of their parents, the twins go to an ordinary school. Campbell Studio City's Hall Episcopal is a private organization renowned for promoting inventiveness and self-actualization. However, the reality was their normal was always a relative concept. Even their recollections of high school were molded by labor commitments. One notable instance was when they were unable to attend their senior prom due to Saturday Night Live was being hosted by them. The same evening, they did not attend the prom completely, opting instead to advertise their movie, New York Minute. It was one more reminder, no matter how difficult, despite their best efforts, childhood always came second to the work. This phase in their life, one, characterized by overwork, divorce, and a last-ditch attempt to keep things normal, was an additional component of a bigger design. That the twins were always adjusting to a world that was more similar professionals as opposed to kids. Additionally, even if they seldom ever discussed the emotional, the weight of everything, the expense at the time would become more apparent as they expanded, older. After Full House, Life, The Olsen, the twins' careers continued to progress following. Their parents' divorce, their house came to an end. In fact, they accelerated. A few years after their parents' deaths, the girls were busier after their divorce than never. Both of them appeared as guests on a Seventh Heaven episode from 2000, portraying Sue, a rebellious character as well as Carol Murphy. The following year, they starred in two recently released series, So Little Fox's live-action sitcom Time Family, and Mary-Kate and Ashley in a Saturday morning animation called Action ABC. Neither program lasted more than one season, but they continued to grow their empire. Mary-Kate even got a Daytime Emmy nomination because to her performance. An additional milestone reached before the majority of children obtain a permit for learners. At the time, they had almost unrivaled reach. From toys to television, the Olsen twins were all over. Ashley and Mary-Kate also operated a fan club until 2000 called Mary Ashley's and Kate's Fun Club. Supporters paid to join to get exclusive things like images, posters, and a magazine titled Our Fun Zine, and a collectibles catalogue. Additionally, members received modest surprise gifts, such as song lyrics or keychains, as well as an autograph and membership card images. The club was extremely prosperous, given a promotion at the start of their films and intricately interwoven with the expanding machine of their brand by the Mary-Kate in the late 1990s and early 2000s, and Ashley were more than simply actors. They were a complete way of life. Their brands were present on clothing, footwear, video games, CDs, books, makeup and purses, and even CD players and phones. Mattel created the twins' fashion dolls between 2000 and 2005, in addition to clothing and accessories to accompany them. Their expressions remained a constant in the lives of international preteens. However, underneath, the glitz and advertising were anything more disturbing. There was never a tidy exit, never a true breakaway from the limelight. Each year brought more lines of products, more photographs, more press. When they were 13 years old, that the twins were more than just famous people, they were CEOs. Additionally, as their empire delivered millions, but it also took the one something they were unable to repurchase: their time, their seclusion, and their perception of self. What appeared to be a dream job was actually a corporate apparatus, motivated by deadlines, financial gain, and public anticipations, while they were selling the ideal of a carefree, enjoyable adolescent, their own lives, which were more organized and alone than before. Their career didn't take a pause. From earlier times, it was an escalation, that their failure was not tragic. It was in their accomplishments without autonomy, their visibility without confidentiality, and the gradual decline in their capacity to survive outside of their own brand. Mixing business-related college years, most teens commemorate turning 18 with a rite of passage or a party. Mary Ashley Olsen and Kate marked theirs by assuming control of a company. In 2004, only, by the time the twins became adults, became Jewelstar's co-presidents. Entertainment Group, the business that had made their youth a commodity and made them a brand worth billions of dollars. For the first time, however, they had authority over it. Assuming complete responsibility, the twins took control of Jewelstar, aimed at an elderly clientele, growing beyond the content intended for minors and products to introduce teen-focused goods such as fragrances, home decor, as well as stylish accessories. Under their direction, the company swiftly developed into a worldwide business that sells its goods in about 5,300 locations in the US and over 3,000 places all across the world. Their impact stretched far out from the screen, and they got a spot because of their business savvy, beginning on Forbes' Celebrity 100 list 2002. They were ranked by 2007 as the 11th wealthiest women overall, with a net worth in entertainment $100 million, roughly. Following completing the prestigious Campbell Hall Los Angeles School, the Olsens intended to keep juggling business as well as instruction. Both of them were accepted into the Gallatin School at NYU Customized Study, an initiative that would enable them to create customized curricula while still operating Jewelr. It was supposed to be the best of both worlds, an opportunity to construct customized educational pathways while still supervising Jewelstar's daily activities. They leased a luxury penthouse in Manhattan and rental office space nearby. From the outside, it looked fantastic. Two young women on the edge of maturity, pursuing higher education while managing a worldwide business. However, things didn't work out as expected. They unraveled fast, though they technically enrolled. Mary Kate, as well as Ashley, never seemed to fit in at college. Life. Both had, by their sophomore years, silently dropped out. As the official, the justification was that they wished to concentrate on Jewelstars. A number of additional, there appeared to be a factor involved: the severe strain, the invasion of privacy, and how impossible it is to live like regular pupils all have a role to play. How adaptable Gallatins, they had independence thanks to a self-directed curriculum, but minimal scholarly organization. A few thought that they were never completely determined to complete their education in the first position. According to interviews, Mary Kate suggested how hard it was to locate equilibrium. College had provided an opportunity of a life they had never experienced, not curated, unplanned, unrestricted. However, it was short-lived. Their actual environment wasn't NYU. Boardrooms, contracts, and critics, and cameras. This section was intended to be their adolescence, and apart from the predetermined existence, they'd lived forever. However, it only validated what they were starting to get it. They couldn't possibly live like other individuals. Drawbacks of residing in the spotlight. However, more disturbing was the ongoing focus. Their existence transformed them into movement, on campus, targets for gossip bloggers and paparazzi, and even a few classmates. Narratives of their locations, partying styles, and including images taken within school, turned up in tabloids, according to reports. The later, the twins acknowledged that they never felt NYU is safe. Not sure who was just a classmate and who could be taking advantage of their personal lives. Mary Kate's chaos was exacerbated by personal life. she started dating the heir to Stavros, Narcos' third Greek shipping magnate. However, after 5 months, the partnership terminated suddenly when Paris Hilton was connected to him. However, tabloids jumped on the drama. The anticipated conflict never materialized openly. Rather, Mary-Kate subtly went back to Los Angeles from New York. Angeles seems devastated. Later, a friend said she was upset upon learning that Narcos had been seeing Hilton simultaneously. During an interview, Mary-Kate talked up to W Magazine about regarding her choice to quit NYU, stating that it was quite busy. Additionally, she acknowledged that while she and Hilton they had been amicable, but now they were silent. The demands of celebrity were evident at that time, had reached a breaking point. Even though they established their brand and made an effort to mature away from the spotlight, the focus only grew more intense. At the moment when they ought to have been becoming self-sufficient and establishing themselves as adults, Kate and Ashley were defending themselves. Unrelenting speculation and unpleasant monitoring. In spite of their best attempts to grow up and leave the limelight, the focus only grew more intense. Additionally, as their private life got harder to conceal problems, the tragic event that led to their notoriety became more apparent. They have never been a part of themselves. Individual challenges. Behind Mary-Kate, in the moments, was silently fighting against something much more serious. Not long before they turned 18, she started receiving therapy for an eating disorder, chaos. Her friends and family had known about the problem for a long time, being aware. Their legal protection was about to expire. Her parents orchestrated her ability to step in on a treatment while she was still in the issue, making sure she was taken care of before legally she may decline. Mary-Kate's spokesperson at the moment, Michael Piñata, made a declaration in public, claiming that she had chosen the challenge to confront. However, instead of encountering, the story was drenched with compassion. Throughout tabloids, it became more devastating when another health. 3 years later, she faced a challenge. She had issues with their kidneys. The examination didn't stop there. Ashley also discovered herself to the whims of the media. She filed a lawsuit against the National $40 million Enquirer over a picture and a headline that made a deceptive impression. She had fainted from the drugs. Although the settlement specifics weren't revealed, the tabloid eventually released an apology and retraction, uncommon concession in a time when on controversies involving celebrities. Even their classmates participated in the abuse. Pratt Spencer, who would later become a reality TV villain on The Hills, attended a same high school. To the twins, after several years, he boasted in Information magazine on the sale of a photograph of Mary-Kate drinking at a party while still too young for $50,000. The picture fueled the press's obsession and made the distinction much more hazy between business